Thank you to Shopify for sponsoring this video. More on them in just a bit.
What is happening there, citizens of the Reject Nation? Welcome to the REAL Rejects podcast. If you thought real REEL was corny, wait till you hear the title of REAL, a play on the corny.
Real.
Making it double the corny. Anyway, I'm Greg, that's Coy, and we never do intros like this, but we're doing it now.
I was confused.
Why don't you go ahead, leave a like on that video there, sir? That would mean a lot. And subscribe, click that bell. We upload these generally every Friday, unless something is so important we got to upload early.
Chairs.
Or if we're too tired and we upload it the next day, but usually on Fridays. Coy, today I thought it would be fun to react to some weird-ass Avengers Doomsday rumors.
Okay.
So the one that it kicked off from, Huntsville Pop Culture Expo. This was in front of a live audience.
Okay.
From legendary Marvel Comics writer Chris Claremont.
One of the goats.
Goats as why? What have you read from Chris Claremont that's so good, Cole?
He's Days of Future Past in that whole era, man. He's Dark
big
Phoenix.
deal.
He's Chris Claremont.
What
If
does
you know
he know?
X-Men, I would say you probably know the Claremont Byrne era.
Waste of time.
He is, I think, one of the great voices of X-Men. He is what added a lot of the soap opera elements that I think have sustained the X-Men out of being different than a lot of other teams. He reinvented and reinvigorated the X-Men in so many ways, and he's one of the longest running ones. He still comes back and writes X-Men. And what's cool is Chris Claremont will come back and he'll write something in the canon of his old stuff. So he'll write X-Men like a la 70s, 80s today, and it'll be like, insert this here in continuity. So I really dig his vibe. Fun fact about Chris Claremont, I went to the Dark Phoenix premiere, and he's the only person I've ever heard in my life, and this is a testament to how much this man loves soaps, that was like, I think that worked for me more than X2. And I was like,
wow.
So Chris Claremont with a hot take. He's got a very specific vision, and I think it really translates to comics. He sees the characters in movies differently than me, clearly. But I think that he is such a font of knowledge and passion that even if he has a take that I don't agree with, I love where he's coming from.
Well, you ready to hear what he told
That's
the
why I'm
audience?
curious.
He told the audience some casting rumors that he's heard.
Okay.
And it's just kind of wild that he's just saying this at a panel, and part of me is going, okay, is this real? How would he not be scared? Is he trolling?
I have not heard how extreme these are.
All right. Well, the first big one that was making the rounds, Robert Downey Jr. will not only play Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom, but also an alt-universe Iron Man and 2 other unspecified characters. How about this? Let's have a little fun here.
Okay.
Let's have a little fun. Let's treat it. You can tell me if you think. Before you tell me if you think it's real, let's first act like it's real.
Okay.
And nah, that's a stupid direction. Let's take this back. What are your thoughts, Coy?
I think, I think that it is likely that we'll see more than one Robert Downey Jr.
Do you want that though?
No.
I don't want. I don't know if I want more. I feel like if you're going to bring him back, just have it be this one. You don't need to drive home the point to me that this is some
Multiversal.
Yeah.
We get
Yeah.
it. That's not Iron Man.
Yeah.
But if you make him another Iron Man, well, then it is Iron Man again. I think they're going to have a hard enough time with he can play Victor Von Doom. He can. I love his work outside of the MCU. I do not doubt Robert Downey Jr. as an actor for 1 minute. I doubt our ability to separate him in the MCU from Iron Man. When the teasers came out with the chairs and then he turned around and did like very Iron Man-y things, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And so I worry in the film it's going to be something similar where it's like, I want to be very sure he's Victor Von Doom. The last thing I'm going to want is to see any other thing and be like, but also this.
I think it undercuts. I think it undercuts his presence.
Character's too important.
Yeah, I think it'll undercut RDJ just being on screen.
Yeah.
If there's other versions. And, variants can be fun. Obviously, variants can be a lot of fun. And it usually depends on how a variant is used. I actually think the montage, when you're going to get all the variants out of the way in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Genius. And the Cavill choice is genius.
It's great usage because it's meant to just be exactly what it is there. Yeah. Just fun little Easter egg moments, little dopamine hits of Easter eggs. and that's all it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be like actual characters that he's
Right.
playing or some shit. And that then sometimes when you are with the variants, that's part of what makes it weak. Is
Yeah.
because they're not feeling like actual characters.
If they die, we're like, well, that's not the them.
Yeah, it feels like dress up, and then the one of the worst moments in post credit scenes to me was the Kang post credit scene in Ant-Man Quantumania. I sometimes just look it up to laugh at it.
My big thing is like it's already affecting the present with like when they did the chairs and the Thunderbolts, their names started popping up. I remember being like, well, that kind of undermines, and this is separate from the whole experience, just the press experience.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then, and then other people were like, well, they could be variants, and I was like, they're going to introduce variants of characters. We're about to get a solo movie up for the first. So I think the very definition of variant as it's been used in the MCU hurts the heart of a narrative.
Yeah, there's something about it that reads as not that important. And I think if you're going to have even an alt-universe Iron Man appear with Robert Downey Jr., we're going to want him to feel like a character.
Yeah.
And not just a cameo. And I don't, they can do that. They can absolutely pull it off. Like best use of variants to me in terms of character would be the inclusion of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, who felt like real characters.
I would also, well, and they are variants that have lived their time in history, and I think the only
Exactly.
time you actually get to feel the weight is when they've got their own things.
That's
which
why
is,
even Blade showing up has an effect, even though he's not much of
we've
a
got
character.
years of history, and I think the closest that is in modern time with limited screen time is Gamora. I think Gamora in Guardians 3 was impactful because we felt the tension of the lack of what Star-Lord and Gamora were feeling.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have worked if we hadn't had two movies with our Gamora.
And also the
death in
conflicting
Endgame.
identity it gave for Gamora, and yeah, the sense of like who she could become. And
That
yeah,
loss I felt, but that only worked because we had so much time with her. If we just
Exactly.
meet this new Iron Man, it's gonna be like, well, that's kind of like Iron Man. So I don't love it.
But the idea that it's going to happen, yeah, we'll see probably more than one RDJ,
Yep.
even
Now
though we
even
don't,
more worried.
don't want it. Okay, so next one, Chris Evans. Evans will return. He's obviously denied this, portraying multiple versions of Cap. One being an evil Captain America, like a Captain Hydra. Thoughts? I think likely.
I think it's so funny. So I have not heard any of these. So I love that Chris Claremont's just like, well, in the script I got, and he's just reading this. This is crazy. I would say likely we get Hydra Cap. Likely we get a take on Nomad. I think this will be the Cap thing. I think will likely feel like the Deadpool sequence.
Really quick, can you quickly explain Hydra Cap and Nomad?
So Nomad is when Captain America disavows his allegiance to the country itself, and he is a man without a flag. Like he is a nomad. He is seeking his own moral compass.
Infinity War is like slight homage.
Yeah, it's an homage. And Winter Soldier like acknowledges him being like, this isn't what I agreed to. So I think we've had seeds of it, but we haven't seen the full tree. And then Hydra Cap is, there was a clone of Captain America that took over for quite some time. And he was evil. And there's a moment where he whispers, "Hail Hydra." And there's a twist involving Red Skull by the time you get to the end of the run. It's a lot. It's real extra. But I think people would definitely pop to see like Hydra Cap. Also, Chris Evans loves playing a Knives Out kind of character. I think he'd have a lot of fun putting on the spangle and then being a dick.
Do you think it will be a character, though?
I think it'll be a scene. I don't think we have time for more villains.
I mean, the cast is already so huge.
And
that
Doom needs screen time.
Yeah, because it's sort of what when you look back on the chair experience of I love how that's a thing. When you look back on the chair thing with it, it is exciting when you get all the list of names and we got to cover it. But there's no way you have time to service this to be truly impactful characters or have like real presence. You are giving away essentially what is probably a lot of cameos, and cameos should not be announcements.
No. And the weight of the thing we're going to feel towards those chairs when we see them is their past and the history we have with that take. If you bring in a new version of that character and if we know Hydra Cap for 5 minutes, our entire experience is 5 minutes. If we see Ian McKellen as Magneto, our entire experience is 20 years.
But let's play the opposite here. I'm going to try to get us with a different attitude.
Okay.
The positive. What would be the positive experience of let's go back a little bit with seeing an alt universe Iron Man. What would you think would be the positive for you in that audience? Would you immediately? It's like I know us well enough to know that we wouldn't be 100% cynical. Maybe not even right away. We'd probably be like pretty positive right away.
It'll be excitement out of the novelty. I think there'll be an absolute joy of like, oh my God, Iron Man! Like I think it's been long enough since Endgame. We'll be excited to see Iron Man. I think the other thing could be using him for emotional turmoil with the characters we have, knowing he's not there, and there's that bittersweetness of I know I lost my father figure and this isn't him, but I feel that. Just like I'm saying, the negative about him playing Doom could be a positive in narrative if you make it like I'm aware that you're not blank, but I want you to be, and I know that intelligently this isn't the Iron Man I know. If they write that well enough, it could be an emotional beat or two. But I worry that it'll still not translate as well as it would need to. But that would be, the excitement, the novelty, and also some emotional manipulation of characters we love.
Yeah. I think if they really let Chris Evans lean into being evil Captain America, I think it would be very memorable.
I think what he did with Human Torch was great. This could be even more.
Well, I think if they actually attempt to make him imposing and scary and intimidating, versus something cool to look at or something funny, something to mock.
Right.
Because that's what like the Johnny Storm cameo turns into, is something to mock. Something starts off like kind of cool, and then it turns into he literally falls on his crotch. You know?
It's
it's weird. Like I love that cameo the first time I saw it. Fucking blew me. I was freaking out in the theaters. The second time I watched it, I didn't like it as much because it does just become like a dude who falls on, hits his crotch and he's just
a punchline.
He's a punchline, after teasing the audience. But then when I talk about it, I'm like, it's kind of funny to me that they would actually do the flame on and then they just turned into some like stupid dick joke. Like
it worked for me.
I go back and forth. Sometimes I really like it and sometimes I don't.
But Hydra Cap wouldn't work because we don't have the history with them for that joke to land. No. If they just make him a punchline, it's like, well, that's not a service to the character.
Can't just be a moment or a lineup, like an Illuminati lineup. But I think if they do let him do some type of performance, even if it's a few minutes that has some type of weight to it, I think it'd be pretty sweet.
Seeing Downey Doom evil, working with Hydra Cap evil, if they let them actually if you let Chris Evans and Downey Jr. play their malice and it's a cool scene, that'd be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give that all its flowers.
1,000%. Right there with you. All right, next one. Elizabeth Olsen will return, but it'll actually be a different version, specifically a good version of the character.
That would undermine both Multiverse of Madness and WandaVision, which would be impressive. Because we had an arc that got devalued by a sequel. Like WandaVision was nuanced, and then Scarlet Witch in Multiverse was just like, blah. And then I felt the weight of what Elizabeth Olsen was bringing to the scene she was in, but the writing kept taking out moments. Like it felt like it was missing full scenes. It felt like we had one, like if it was a 10-beat arc, she got to arc 7 in WandaVision, and then it did 8, 9, 10. And I feel like if you make her good, then it's implying that she wasn't good in WandaVision. And if you make her bad, it's not quite, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they have a very tricky thing if they do any variants of Scarlet Witch. I think Scarlet Witch deserves to either have her redemption arc as our Scarlet Witch or turn full Scarlet Witch and actually have her get there.
Yeah.
Either way, she needs a lot of screen time.
I don't think there'll be a variant of her. I think she will be back.
I think she'll be back.
I don't think it'll be a variant. And I couldn't be more excited for her to come back.
I love her take in the character. I actually like her take more than a lot of the runs of the comic. Like, she improves on the comic for me.
I got a question for you, Coy. Got a question. Am I forgetting about some other female character in the MCU that we hear a lot of people talk about really wanting them to return?
Black Widow.
Do people really want Black Widow to return?
I think they hated that Black Widow, the movie, came out after she died.
Okay.
So that makes them want her back to, like, fix it. Like, I feel like
You think so?
I think the OG 6 is still beloved. I think the first 6 Avengers cast are like, that's what people want to see.
So outside of them, because Scarlet Witch is pretty much the only one who is not definitively dead, to me at least.
They're very clearly like that.
It's a rubble, boy.
Yeah.
People survive way worse.
She's a like Nexus level being.
Daredevil murdered a man in the second episode.
And then he had a little neck brace
snapped
on.
his goddamn neck on the ground.
Woke up
and
came
this
to
was
work.
a normal cop who
just a dude.
Had a little bit of a crack in his neck is all he had. So I think Scarlet Witch could survive some rubble.
I think she's just fine. I would not be surprised to see her again. And I think she's playing werewolf. I think she's Andrew Garfielding all this press. I think she's coming
I
back.
think they all have to. And at the same time, I think Marvel also wants some of this out there.
That's what's funny is I feel like they would be told to say no, and then they'll be like, well, my chair's out there. Like, I feel like they wanted to reveal it their way.
I think they want the rumors out there, but not the confirmation. They're trying
Right.
to find like the middle ground.
Which
here.
I respect holding the PR. It's a year away.
It's interesting to me how I would believe this. Famke Janssen reprising her role as Phoenix.
I'd be surprised if she doesn't show up. It would be odd if she isn't in it.
Yeah, it's interesting how I'm not missing anything on the cast, right? That it's all the original X-Men actors. It's not the first class
Right.
era.
Yeah. And like no Anna Paquin, no Famke Janssen, no Halle
No
Berry.
Sophie Turner.
Yeah, but I'm saying even from
In
the
the
original
original
cast,
cast,
they
yeah.
didn't announce Famke, Halle, or Anna Paquin.
I would be. Oh man, I think more than anyone. I think Anna Paquin is so.
She's the lead
key.
of the first movie.
Rogue is so important. People forget that because her role becomes less important, but is featured.
And then the
you
Rogue
know?
cut of Days of Future Past is so beloved.
Yeah,
And it's like a better film.
it's a better cut. And but Famke Janssen, that would be cool for her to come back. Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
That was exciting when she was teased to be Phoenix. I remember being in the theater. That was a fucking exciting ass moment.
The difference between X2 and X3, you asked me about it in Diary of a Girl Reject. Like, that's my biggest drop in, like, that's my biggest disappointment in superheroes is
Yeah.
X-Men 3.
And she never had the opportunity to actually do it some justice. I don't know if this would allow the screen time or the opportunity to do it some justice other than going, you still exist, and look at her break into
On
a power
fire,
for a
yeah.
moment. That's the thing, that is the combativeness here in my own brain with these cameos, and the excitement of it is, oh, what could happen? Cool. But it'd probably be just so short-lived. It'd be like good enough for a social media clip.
Yeah,
out.
it would be like someone making a 20 favorite cameos clip. Like, and that's my
Yeah.
concern of the movie is we need to focus on Doom so much that these cameos are going to be even shorter potentially, and that's really worrisome with how what I loved about Thunderbolts was its pacing, and I worry that it inherently, going into these big event films, you can't do something like that.
Yeah, Famke Janssen, man, she's the shit.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Logan. That's what I associate. Logan.
It's so funny that so many X-Men are associated with just yelling someone else's name.
That is him most of the Wolverine. Psylocke is from Claremont.
Olivia Munn?
Not specifically suggests she'll not be portrayed as Asian. A new actress will be portraying the character.
She's been British and Asian and both. She gets body swapped and like taken over in the comics, which is very complicated. I would be surprised. I mean, I love Psylocke as a character, and I thought Olivia Munn did a pretty great job considering. Like, she didn't have a lot of screen time, but when she was there, she like learned martial arts. Like, she learned sword training. Like, I was very impressed with what she did. We didn't see a lot of the martial arts training on screen.
No.
One of my favorite clips of Olivia Munn as Psylocke is her with Ryan Reynolds, like behind the scenes at Comic-Con. Like, the fact that we really didn't get to see her. But I don't know if Olivia Munn's acting a lot anymore. So I could see them recasting because of that. But also, I don't know how much people are tied to Psylocke except diehard comic fans.
And
so
would we need Psylocke to appear in here?
I would rather see her reboot. If they're going to recast, I'd rather see her get her own like journey in the X-Men movies after
Yeah.
Secret Wars. She's a character I'd like to see more of, but actually.
How'd you feel in Deadpool and Wolverine when there was all the variants of the X-Men character? Like, they had like a Juggernaut, they had Lady Deathstrike, they had there was a Toad. That wasn't Ray Parker, right?
No.
So they had these other characters in the background who were featured in the X-Men movies, but they didn't have them reprise them, and they were just people playing dress up. Did that bother you at all?
It felt like if they hadn't called it out as like the dollar store version of them, it would have. But since they made it clear that like these are the variants that are like, it made it part of the plot. So they said how like we don't see a lot of Xaviers here. They do occasionally. They don't see a lot of Wolverines. Like, they acknowledged it, and also that they were like the cheap versions of the things that like worked for me worked there. But I do think that is inherently the problem with variants is when you do have an alt that isn't your iconic prime universe one, you feel like So that would be my concern with Psylocke is if you want it to feel like a moment, and then there was a Psylocke in it. In Deadpool and Wolverine, if you have a Psylocke in this movie and you're like, this is Psylocke, and it's not, Olivia Munn will be like, is it?
Yeah.
And so they would need to make it, and then we don't want too many punchlines. This movie's supposed to be more serious than Deadpool. Deadpool works because it's a Deadpool movie, like the tone of Channing Tatum's Gambit, which I think he will do like Thor does, where it's going to be a different level in this movie. But if you've got a jokey variant thing, I don't know it'll work in something like Doomsday.
So that's why when I read specifically Psylocke's name, I was going, do we need Psylocke to appear in here? Like, I see the argument for all the other ones we listed.
Yeah.
But Psylocke, I'm like,
to me, Psylocke would be better served to wait and have her get an arc.
Especially if it's not going to be Olivia Munn reprising the role. There's no point in having, I don't think there's a necessity to have
the
Psylocke
character
in
that
here.
isn't nostalgia for the version we had. Yeah.
Yeah.
According
We'll
to the internet, Ray Park did reprise the role. He just didn't get any lines.
That was Ray Park in the movie?
That's what this says.
Huh.
Yeah, it does. Especially after having one of the most iconic, memeable moments of the series.
Yeah.
Opposite Storm.
That's he lost his tongue in the lightning bolt that happened to anything else. That's crazy. I didn't know that was Ray Park.
He's a good actor. Don't you people ever die. Wolverine is one of the hinted ones, he hinted at Wolverine appearing in here. Yep. How exciting is that, Coy?
I mean, I don't honestly have...
Secret Wars is where they should appear.
Yeah, I think Deadpool and Wolverine, you hold the Secret Wars. Because what do you have left to hold? Unless they're doing all the characters we've seen so far, plus Fox.
Yeah.
And then they're going to save Secret Wars to add in Sony. Like, I could see them adding in the Sony universe and, like, maybe the stuff that's like all the other spin-off characters like that are owned by Marvel. Because we've had our Spider-Man and that Sony stuff, but we still haven't had Ghost Rider. We still haven't had Daredevil. We had Elektra. Like, I could see them saving that for Secret Wars.
It's a weird thing talking about this film when you look at the trajectory of talking about Marvel movies. With the lead up to Infinity War, the idea of we believed all these characters would come together. They were telling us all that they all would, and most did come together. It was awesome. They pulled it off. And Spider-Man No Way Home turned into this whole other fiasco of who will be in it, what can be in this movie, how would you possibly do that? Like, I read almost every plot leak and rumor, and things were crazier than the actual movie, and the movie delivers pretty well on the craziness to get Toby and Andrew back to not just show up and do the pose. They literally are characters with performances, and same goes for a few of the villains as well. And then with Multiverse of Madness, they took the Spider-Man feeling, and I think understandably so, when you make your post-credit scene, the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness trailer after experiencing a Multiverse of Madness in the Spider-Man world, and then people went theorizing like crazy, and it didn't live up to the crazy amount of theories, and then in the lead up to, they ruined a lot themselves. Like, giving away Professor X was kind of a huge thing that made you go, if this is what they're willing to show,
must be
what
more.
else will be in
we
here?
covered all that together, and we were all like, animated universe?
And it wasn't anywhere near, and then it kind of put a stain in the idea of cameos and the idea of how we anticipate and overhype ourselves.
Yeah.
And then also how a lot of the times that's not necessarily a good thing if there's all these cameos. That could actually be a bad thing if there's all these cameos. So it's at this weird crux, this film, when their major announcement was essentially a shit ton of cameos. And then now the lead up to this is, what are they going to do? And what other cameos are going to be in this movie? And how much crazier can it be? And it's such a crossroads because this film has to do so much, right? It has to make up for the lack of impact that a lot of the recent movies have had. It has to somehow be some culmination of those and make those better in retrospect as well. That's not its main job, but that's part of the package. How are you going to tie this all up? You got to introduce Doctor Doom and set him up, and then on top of that, too, you're going to have all these cameos in here that you gave away most of them, so you got to have cameos that you didn't give away.
Hidden,
And so how could you – it is really hard to wrap my head around that this will be 100% like success. I'm excited, but it also does – it is the weirdest Marvel one in a while because it could be a total train wreck.
It's May 2nd as of this airing. It's May 1st as of this recording. It is 1 year till this movie.
Yeah.
What? Like, how are they going to...
Because anytime we mention some other characters, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
No.
It's like this is one more person you're squeezing into that room, and the walls are expanding, and the door's about to break. That's what I hear anytime we hear about one more person.
And like Pinewood's big, but is it that big? Like my concern is that it's kind of doing what Multiverse of Madness did, but a year early. Like the movie doesn't even have trailers yet because they're just starting to shoot it. It's doing all the things that we just talked about with MOM, but like with chairs.
Yeah.
Like we're getting all of the things that would be like, oh, pop moments, but they need the brand to be revived. They need the marketing to be so early that I don't know how the movie can live up to the hype of a year of knowing these roles. So I just...
And now they have to have the roles. Like, because now you announced them, so now you have to make sure they're in here.
And my biggest... This is why I think you have to reboot after Secret Wars. Because inevitably sequels get so big they can't go back to small. And I think that are like, how do you top Endgame? How do you top blank? You got to go back to the basics. I think Fast X Part 2 should be a street racing film. I think whatever comes after Secret Wars should be back to like contained individual superhero films. I think the movies shouldn't all be shared universe. I think there should be some solo stuff. I think we should be able to like enjoy things.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So there's a couple of other ones that are rumored.
Reject Nation, when looking at where this channel's at now to where it once was when this first started, there's a lot of growing pains. There always will be growing pains, but I remember back in the day, it was like wearing every single hat. Creative, editor, accountant, marketer, every answer had to come from me in some way, and every new day brought some type of decision that I questioned whether or not I was qualified to make. And that's why I wish we had something like Shopify from the start. Because when you feel like you're building something alone, it helps to have a platform that actually works with you, and that's what Shopify does. So what is Shopify? Well, first off, it's the platform that powers RejectNationShop.com and millions of other businesses worldwide. And honestly, whether you're just getting started or already growing, Shopify gives you the tools, accessibility to build a professional-looking online store and actually run it. So you can pick from ready-made templates, sell your products, manage inventory, track analytics, all in one place. We started using Reject Nation Shop before we ever partnered with them, and we haven't left ever since for many a reason. It even has AI tools to help write your product descriptions and built-in marketing tools to help reach your audience fast. And the support, rock solid. From shipping to payments to customer service, you are covered. So if you've got an idea and finally ready to take it seriously, turn your big idea into with Shopify on your side. You can sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/rejects. Once again, that's shopify.com/rejects. Thank you, Shopify, for positively affecting our lives.
Hulkling, the Kree-Skrull hybrid.
I mean, we've met Wiccan, his boyfriend, husband, depending on which level of continuity. So that would make some sense. He's in the comics as like an emperor of the universe that I could see Nova tying into if they wanted to introduce him somewhere else. But yeah, I don't know.
Lady Death coming back.
I hope so. More Aubrey Plaza is always a good thing.
I don't know if they would include any of these Disney Plus characters. I really feel like they're trying to keep some of this separate.
Half of the Disney Plus characters are Thunderbolts, though.
You're so right.
So I think they're trying to fix that.
Yeah, that's true.
I think they're trying to fix it.
They've got a weird relationship with their own team because Loki's going to be in here, and it has to be the god of stories.
Gotta
Loki,
be.
right?
If you want the scope to be that big, yeah, it'd have to be. But then they didn't have Owen Wilson in Deadpool. So I don't know. Maybe they're saving Mobius for... I mean, actually, if I'm going to see any chair, I want to see Owen Wilson's chair. Like, I want that.
They should just put the jet ski out there. How funny would that be?
All the chairs that it's just a jet ski, but no name.
But everybody knows.
We're like, it's
fucking
happening.
Owen Wilson.
I would love if the next round has little moments like the Ant-Man chair, but it's like props like the jet ski. That'd be gold.
How many people were announced for that movie? Can you look that up, John?
The Doomsday chairs.
The one
For
movie
the
we've been
Doomsday
talking
chairs,
about.
yeah, I think it was 27, but let me double check that.
How many names? Let's use faster.
Hacking.
Gotta get
Enter.
5 seconds to get
26,
the mainframe.
27, 27 cast members.
Damn.
27. That's most casts.
Okay. How many cast members are there for Avengers Infinity War?
That's fun.
Because Infinity War is the
Felt huge. The culmination of three phases.
like a couple of Guardians weren't so well served. Like Drax is just there. I mean, but Drax, But even in something like that, Drax gets to have his iconic
moments.
invisible
Yeah.
lifers. Yeah.
And then that gets served in Guardians 3. I think it worked. How many we got?
I
in
still
Infinity
say
War?
take ass and kick names.
I got 2 pieces of information here for you. It's around 76 characters in Avengers Infinity War.
Okay.
And IMDb misled me. Daniel Medina Ramos was Toad in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Ah, okay.
Okay. So, but not every one of them.
77 actually gives me some faith in Doomsday. That's a lot of names.
But a lot of them were also just cameos in there, or not really. Like Okoye's in there and Baku's in there, but they're barely in the movie.
They get their beats though. They get a moment or two. But will we care? I mean, we'll want
but
more than that
that's
for
so-
Ian McKellen.
That's okay when they're already in their other movies.
And
that,
we've just
that
seen
are,
them.
that- yeah, that are just running, just seeing where Okoye and Baku got to have a bunch of screen time. And Black Panther,
Right.
And Winter Soldier was just in Captain America, Civil War. So yeah,
But Xavier was just in Doctor Strange and died again.
it is different, right? Like there's I am trying to find that it does give me a little bit of hope.
It does,
Russo
actually.
brothers directed it, and obviously it's like there's going to be core main characters, and the rest will have like a couple of minutes.
I actually like this. Is the number thing is somehow the most hope I've had yet.
It's a way to
somehow
wrap it
knowing
around- yeah.
77 helps me.
Is that 77 main characters?
No, it's probably like 30 main, but like 77 speaking roles is still,
Yeah. Well, you had the Order. You had Thanos. I'm not going to count them all right. What
I
am
was
I
like,
doing?
Greg
I'm just
lists
gonna fucking-
77
I'm gonna
cast
I'm gonna
members.
go through this whole
Are you
gambit
guys
here.
enjoying this podcast of Greg reading the cast list of Avengers Infinity War
Like,
from memory?
I'll do it, man. I'll fucking go there.
Jacob Batalon is in the bus, and that.
But there's gonna be some characters who are
100%.
just on the bus
Just
next
on
to Spider-Man,
metaphorical bus.
and their name was announced in a casting chair.
And we're gonna think for a year that maybe they're gonna be more.
Yeah, because we got hyped at the possibility of what they could do with Cyclops, and they could give that moment.
They have to.
They could give the action moment.
There's no way they mess up Cyclops again. Not with Kevin Feige loving the X-Men this much. I feel like the combination of Feige and X-Men 97 finally making him Cyclops, if they do that, there will be nerd riots
Yeah,
because
Well,
they just fixed Cyclops.
Nerd Ride, good guy. I know the guy. I guess they haven't really botched. What have they botched? What is something they've actually botched?
Movie-wise?
In terms of like a cameo appearance, or I think Black Bolt coming back was. I mean, cool death though.
I liked Black Bolt more than I liked a lot of other ones. I think Black Bolt worked.
The death?
Yeah.
I mean, I liked his death, but he didn't get.
I mean, all of the Illuminati didn't really work for me.
no.
Cameo-wise, outside of the Illuminati, they're pretty good about balancing, mostly.
I think due to circumstances, Lizard was underutilized pretty hardcore. In
I
No
agree
Way
with that.
Home. Yeah, that wasn't a great usage of him.
That's fair.
And I think same can be said for
Sandman
Sandman
a little bit too
Yeah.
because of that.
But I don't even remember like a cool like Lizard fight moment. At least
He
Sandman.
fought Andrew Garfield in the sky in an aerial sequence. It looked just like the Todd McFarlane comic, so I remember it.
Okay, I don't really remember it too well, like as a standout moment, because like Sandman, they at least because he's a crazy visual, you can like do a bunch of crazy.
He
visual
struck some
shit.
poses from the
Yeah.
comic, so I remember it.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I think overall they do pretty good with cameos. Clea is a pretty rough one. Charlize
yeah,
Theron.
oh my god, yeah.
Charlize Theron's probably one of the worst for me because it's like, what's happening?
Yeah,
Also, the stakes you just established are gone. In the next scene, he's got his 2 eyes back.
we should do an episode that goes through all the post-credit scenes that haven't amounted to anything yet.
Harry Styles, that's the one that hurts
Harry
me.
Styles, Hercules,
Roy Kent, yeah.
yeah.
That little time frame was rough for setup scenes, and all of them got to show up. They weren't on chairs.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Like they're tasked with something major here, and they gotta wrap up a lot, and then also set up some shit too.
And that's why I assume X-Men are going to be not announced before. I think Comic-Con, every year I'm like, maybe this is the X-Men year. I think they'll wait until next year's D23 or next year's Comic-Con on the lead up to Secret Wars, not on the lead up to Doomsday. I think there will be X-Men in these, but I don't think they'll start the movie stuff publicly.
Well, these rumors, to conclude it, do you think any of them, which ones do you flat out think are not true?
I think the Psylocke one is the least likely without Olivia Munn, because I think that they're smart enough to go like, what? I think, what was the last one?
Lady Death.
I think that's likely.
Okay.
She was super well regarded, and there's going to be a lot of death.
Okay.
So I feel like
show.
there's a place for her.
Collect your soul.
Oh, come with me, Aubrey Plaza. I think there's a place for her. Also, she had like, mystical vibes that I think they're going to lean into with Doom. That they'll need those kind of characters.
That is fair.
So I think she's more likely. I'd say as a betting man, I'd put Death over Psylocke, or I think Evans and Downey are the most likely to be multiple characters because it's going to be like, oh, exciting. And then Lady Death, most exciting cameo of those
Scarlet
listed.
Witch.
Scarlet Witch, I feel like is just true.
Yeah, so pretty much we believe them all except Psylocke.
Yeah. Also, it's just funny that Chris Claremont's like, I read it. Like, I just love that he's out here just talking at a con.
Yeah, I know. Not worried at all about his future.
But this to me is a different conversation than like the previs leaks, because it's a conversation about a nerd being excited about this nerd stuff, and he doesn't have any more
It's
necessary.
not a leak. He's fucking just saying
Talking
it at a
about it.
goddamn panel.
Yeah, and we don't know if it's any more true than like me saying it.
Yeah.
Like or whoever. So like Claremont is obviously a legend of comic books, but I don't know if he's working on these movies. So to me, it's still objectively and fun to theorize. But whereas like the previs leaks, I avoided because I was like, well, that's maybe possible. Like that seems like that's actually like a thing they used to make the movie.
Sure. Well, which cameo are you guys most excited for? How are we feeling about Doomsday?
1 year.
1 year. Don't worry, Coy. We're gonna be so positive. Once it's been like 10 years. It's about time Disney pays us.
I think I've been, waiting. I got a bunch. I put up my Thunderbolts review, and I got a lot of like, oh, he's always a Marvel shill. And I was like, there's been enough things lately that I haven't loved. Also, you've called me a DC shill in the last video. And so where are my double checks? Also, is there a bidding war I can start?
I would love some Disney money.
They
I hear they pay
got
Jeremy
it.
Renner great money.
Specifically, Jeremy.
Sure. Did you hear about that?
No.
Oh, he was talking about it's a real news story. Let me pull it up.
Is it about his memoir? Because I love his memoir
It's
tour.
about how Disney doesn't value him enough, and they were going to pay him less money
For doing a movie, or I'm
for
very
Hawkeye
curious.
season 2.
Oh, so he's not doing it.
Oh, yeah, it's literally the top story here.
Oh, bring me the story.
Don't worry, Coy, I got you. He was offered for season 2, but he thought it was an insult. He had to defend himself. He didn't ask for any more money. They basically offered him half of his season 1 salary.
Ooh.
And he made it funny. He said, I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over? And then the crowd laughed wherever he was with Variety, one-on-one with a crowd. I don't know what happened here. So Jeremy Renner is he's not here for Hawkeye season 2 because why would he be if
For half the money. That's
when
crazy.
you can't offer that's insulting. Like
Yeah.
why even attempt it?
I get that the first show didn't do as well as they might have hoped, but that doesn't mean you take it out in the act. Like, you don't go like, all right, didn't work out. Here's
At least match the income. Yeah, you match because it's not like this was his first shot in the MCU.
he's been Hawkeye. He's one of the original. He was in Thor
Been
1.
around a while. Like,
Also, his star is only grown.
You don't do that shit to him. What the hell?
He was Mr. Franchise for a while, where it was like, we need a new guy, Jeremy Renner. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a guy you just. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. Kind of wild.
He's also so beloved right now because everybody's like, you're alive.
Yeah.
Like, there's such a moment for him to come. Like, it would feel impactful for him to come back because we're like so appreciative he is breathing.
Him getting run over has done wonders.
Great PR
Great
tractors.
PR. Oh my God. Forgive for all past behaviors.
And his app.
It's crazy.
And his music app is long forgotten.
Forgot. I honestly did not know that
He had
existed.
an album come out. He made a whole app. There was a Jeremy Renner app. You can probably find pieces of on
Okay.
the internet. It was a fascinating bit of like country kind of music. Disappeared.
I get mixed signals on what that guy's like in real life.
I
Because I've heard like a lot of terrible stories about him. And I'm like, but there's still, the possibility that maybe he was just an asshole that day. And then there's some personal life things that are just coming back to my brain right now about his past. That was legal battles and shit. I've totally forgot about.
he's had a journey.
He's got some shit in his past, huh?
I remember that was my favorite 2 Jeremy Renner news articles, not the stuff that may or may I don't know about the dude's personal life. My favorite 2, like how is this a human being living in the regular world, was a tornado hit Modesto, California, and they just were randomly interviewing people that lived there, and like Jeremy Renner comes out of his house in a bathrobe in this giant bowler hat, and he's like, "Man, it's crazy." So my window was like, "You guys, that's Jeremy Renner." And then the other one was he got arrested at in a Thailand bar fight and someone was wielding an axe. And I
Holy
was like,
shit.
what? So those are my two favorite. I don't know if he's cool, but those are cool moments.
Well, there you have it, guys. Jeremy Renner. Do you wish Hawkeye season 2 was happening? I love that comic. That
Dude, the David
should have
Aja
been
art,
more
Matt
based
Fraction.
on Matt Fraction. Right? Yeah, that was a great comic.
Yeah, read the comic because it's so cinematic. Like it's such a fun read.
And that is the definition of turning a comic into a Disney version of the comic. It really,
Especially Kingpin.
that comic there's like a sadness and a grit to it. You know,
It's way more like a Shane Black
It's
story.
mature. Oh yeah, great call. That's
And then they
perfect.
tried to make a Shane Black Disney thing, and they're like, "You picked the wrong Shane Black things.
No, but
Just Christmas isn't enough."
it gave us Haley Steinfeld as
It
Kate
did, she's
Bishop, and
immaculate.
she is phenomenal.
How crazy is it that IMAX is battling between two Haley Steinfeld properties right now?
What are you talking about?
Like she's basically in the MCU, and then she's in Sinners, so they're alternating between like these two entities.
I like how you lumped that into Haley Steinfeld.
Oh, I just picture her as MCU.
Oh, really?
That's not a spoiler.
I know.
But like, yeah, I just think of it as like, oh, we're gonna go from like Haley Steinfeld and Sinners into like MCU, and then back to Sinners with Haley Steinfeld.
Man, Ryan Coogler must be.
So stoked. First dollar gross, like getting money up front.
I hope he does something that gets him in public trouble. I would love for the downfall now to happen.
I do not. I want Ryan Coogler to be
I want
happy. It's
him
deserved.
some terrible thing to come out about him.
I
and
want
for
Ryan
him
Coogler to get
lose
the Nolan
everything.
treatment and to be handed a blank check to go make his Odyssey.
That's
We
not,
got different
can't
goals.
Talk about that, and we won't.
We
Get
will not get clicks.
What clicks do we get talking about how successful Sinners is doing? how
Ryan
great
Coogler
that
makes
is?
the Iliad.
No, man, we need,
Nolan
we
makes
need
the
Ryan
Odyssey.
Coogler to get arrested at the bank again. This time for doing something bad.
No,
Why
I
wait
think
for
not-
something to happen? Just make up the
Yeah, we
rumor
could just say
yourself.
he
Oh yeah,
was-
shit. What am I doing? We got a platform.
Double jeopardy. He was seen robbing a bank and got away with it because they
Yes,
were like, "Oh, Mr.
because he's a
Coogler, we
director.
can't."
Yeah, and he directed that security camera footage.
That was
himself.
clearly him going
Clearly
like, "I'm-
his style." That's why the aspect ratio changed.
I'm a method director, so I'm directing this. That's it. I forgot about that. The Ryan Coogler like bank thing is nuts.
he handled that like a total boss.
Oh my
dude.
god! Like what a
He's
professional
like-
dude.
like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was the attitude of, "You don't want to be doing this right now."
I remember seeing the footage being like, "No, you really don't, guy."
Like, you're gonna want to look up my name before you proceed. I was
People,
like,
the
fucking baller.
conversation, like, yeah, it's just so calm and confident. Like, I'm the movie star of the moment.
Yeah,
Like,
you have no idea what you're doing, man.
it felt like Inside Man, but it was just Ryan Coogler as Clive Owen. I love the conversation of us talking about that and the life it's taken on the internet of like our clip from Sinners
Yeah.
and like reading the comments is exactly the micro to the macro of the conversation around that film. You can see everyone's differing opinion of what it is, but at the end of the day, it dropped 6% since we made that video.
Beautiful.
That's incredible.
All because of Coy's powerful statements.
That's I kept it up, not Ryan Coogler, one of the best directors alive. No siree.
No, he's a bank robber.
Yeah, everyone knows. New narrative.
Anyway, thank you guys for being here. We're here every Friday with this exact tone every time.
Slap happy, confused
Slap happy
news.
tone every time. And hey, we answered some questions from patrons to warm up. Here, enjoy.
Here, enjoy.
Gabriel, one of our patrons, thank you. Thank you, Super Sexy Rejects, for keeping us afloat during weird monetization troubles and some brand deal troubles. I'll tell you that, man. Some crazy shit went down there. He's having, I like this question. I'm curious to hear your answer here, Coy. What franchise IP do you think currently has the most healthy fan base?
Oh, I like the optimism there. Because we talk about the other a lot. The most healthy fan base in current fandom. Okay. This is a this feels insane, but I can't think of another one. My first instinct rolling through them all, I think Fast and the Furious.
You think so? Fast and Furious?
When's the last time someone got vitrolic about a high or low in that franchise? They have been varying degrees of quality, but when one isn't great, no one's like, "Oh, what if they blah blah." Like no one gets mad personally. It's about family. The movies make money. It shouldn't have cost. The last one shouldn't have cost what it did. But when people show up, it's about community. It's about family. It's about sharing the joy of a franchise. And I've never seen anyone be like, "Screw you, other car franchise." Like no one pits it against other things. Now, granted, there are less car franchise-based movies, but when you think about fandoms, usually there's like an animosity towards it was so much better when blank. doesn't have it. There's no competitive screw you to another thing, and it's not something that people really like Rage Against the Machine about. Is it maybe Fast and Furious?
It was one of those things where when you said it, it was so good that I was half listening and half thinking, is there one that could possibly even be a second runner-up to that?
I felt crazy when that was the thing that popped in my mind at all, because people don't think of that as a fan, but there's 10 of them, plus a Hobbs and Shaw.
There's a series. There's a Netflix show or something. I don't know if it's connected. I don't know if it's canon.
But the fact that there's
Great,
that
now
many.
I'm going to go down the damn rabbit hole.
Fast
I'm
and
going to need
Furious
to know
Netflix
all
show.
of the extended universe
Racer
of Fast and
X.
Furious now.
But like Star Trek is better than I would say Star Wars, and there's a lot of Star Trek, but I'm not in it enough to know if it's angry. I do know there are people that are like, went woke, and I'm like, have you seen the first, second, third, fourth, fifth Star Treks? But I definitely wouldn't say any of the comic book fandoms anymore.
There was a time where I would have said Scream, but then something happened and things kind
about a movie ago?
inflated on it. Things sort of like crumbled from within after.
Five Nights at Freddy, no, a lot of those people get pretty angry. Final Destination coming back seems like a hyper positive group.
Yeah, I mean, we could isolate them, but if we're talking about the massive ones, like when you're thinking about the massive, I mean, I don't really consider their, like, I don't call it a Fast and Furious fandom. I don't use that word, but it technically would be, right? And there is lore, and it hits all the boxes of being a franchise. It does, yeah. And it evolves and everything. Because, yeah, when I think fandom, beyond Marvel, Star Wars, and DC, I would think like Doctor Who.
Lord of the Rings.
Star
Trek.
Yeah, but I guess among the ones that like first come to mind, I can't even say Lord of the Rings now, can I?
No, not after Amazon. And I'd go to Fast Con in a second.
I mean, if Twitter didn't exist, I might have opted for Harry Potter. I don't know, actually.
I think if J.K. Rowling didn't.
Then Harry Potter, then the leader of Harry Potter has created its own little problems.
And now this new one that's coming out, like people are so mad about casting.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That
That's
it
what I was
feels,
saying.
yeah, the
Yeah,
Twitter
yeah.
of it all.
Yeah.
But the show's not even out yet, so I feel like that's only going to get worse when it's airing.
Oh yeah, those channels out there. The other.
Oh, dude, the money
is
they're
ready.
going to make.
You're ready for it. They're
The
like, I already
thumbnails
got
are
my
pre-made.
thumbnails ready, baby. Yellow or red background, teardrop, big eyes. Let's go.
I spent $1,700 on new teardrops. I got my graphic card
We're good to
upgraded.
go, baby. Plug this into ChatGPT.
What angry fonts do I have?
People's rage and put it into a script that equals 8 minutes and 1 second.
All House Slytherin, the lot of us. But I think
I cannot. The only thing I have to say is the horror community as a whole. That's the only thing I have. But in terms of a specific franchise, I am having the hardest. I'm sure people
I want to read these comments because I'm curious because it
I'm
leapt.
sure there's a bunch that people are typing right now. Me going, oh yeah, of course,
That one.
I guess the Jurassic Park franchise is pretty awesome.
Pretty positive.
Like the way how
We always show up, put $1 billion into something, and we leave like, well, that could have been better.
even if it's crap, we want to see the next one as long as the trailers look somewhat exciting with big dinosaurs. People show up. There is extended canon. No one was pissed off about the changes from the book. I'm sure some people were, but most people haven't even read the book. They've watched the movies,
How to Train Your Dragon
Yeah, it's pretty positive.
shows the trilogy, a live action coming out. It's been pretty
I
positive.
think when we're thinking franchise, we need something that's been around for
That's what's
ever
hard.
and has been going on and tried expanding out and stuff. Oh, How to Train Your Dragon has the shows and stuff.
The shows, the books,
Yeah.
the movies.
I don't know if this counts, but what about Pokemon?
That's pretty positive.
It's a pretty positive fandom.
I mean, Pokemon Go was like the only time I've seen community gather like in a beautiful environmental outdoor way.
I don't know. I just haven't been in touch with the Pokemon community in so long. We were Pokemon fanatics. That's how John and I bonded. He had a crush on Misty.
I mean, I respect that.
True facts.
I get it.
Diary of a Real Reader.
Anyway, thanks for the question,
Great
Gabriel. That's a great one. Flav Doran, seeing how the multiverse saga was kind of a mess, and obviously it's not done yet, but if you were to be given Feige's role, what films would you want to produce for the next rumored mutant saga that would probably be built into the next Avengers film? So I guess he's saying, wait, which ones would you want to produce? Oh, ones that are already like rumored or announced to be coming.
The movies that are already announced.
Yeah. I would do the Blade movie. Because
Be the savior of Blade.
I would love to be the savior of Blade. I don't know why it's so hard to do a Blade movie. It's kind of hard.
Sinners did great.
I know, and Sinners is way more complicated
Yeah.
than anything a Blade movie can do, outside of having to worry about a couple of lines that connect to the bigger
Yeah.
part of the MCU.
One scene someone else can help you write and put into your movie.
But Sinners is a massive undertaking with a lot of complexity and historically rich as well.
And look at how much it's been received. Like it's
Yeah.
been like, did you see that 6% drop?
Yeah,
it's the
it's
lowest drop in
incredible.
the history of us. Like looking at drops.
They're re-releasing in IMAX already. They
on the
already planned
15th,
it.
I think.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks for Thunderbolts, then back to Sinners.
That's awesome. And yeah, so to me, I think the Blade movie, I would just be the producer on set being like, do a oneer and make it R-rated.
You know, the Gareth Evans experience we had with Havoc made me really want him to do Blade.
I think you'd do a dope-ass Blade
Right?
director. Yeah,
like
he'd be
the
a
way
great
his
one.
hand-to-hand and his gun fu is, I would love both of those things in like a Blade movie.
Now, we are not exactly the people qualified to talk about it. But after watching, did you see the latest episode of The Studio?
Oh my god!
But so after watching the latest episode of The Studio, I'm going to ask you this question, okay?
Oh great!
And we are not the people qualified to answer it for obvious reasons once it comes out of my mouth. Do you think Blade needs to have a black director for its first film?
I think
What's your point of view?
my point of view is it needs to have a black writer, and I think the director needs to be both dramatically and action oriented, and that to me as a white man is going to be. I think it's more about the visual aesthetic and the energy, whereas the heart and the soul and the feeling comes from the writing and the accuracy to tone. So I think if you've got the writer that's going to get the black experience correct, and then you've got a director that's going to get the visual and heart and emotion, that's important to me. But I'm sure this is short-sighted and someone's going to say the directing is what brings that. So in my experience working on sets as an actor and being someone that's watched sets as a host, I see a lot of heart coming from what's on the page that then the director adapts. And I think that'd be easier for a person, to make sure that the heart on the page is there.
Yeah.
Personally. It was a scary question. Studio episode 6.
I mean, you're just sharing your opinion.
On the internet? But I do think that the Blade situation has been overcomplicated with time. I think it's been 6 years since
At
the
this
announcement.
point, I'm like, get anyone.
Yeah, just make it. I want to
Get
see
someone
it.
out of CSUN right now. Just have him do it. Someone with a lot of ambition who made a good YouTube video 6 years ago. Let's go.
And there's so many people want it. Like it's right there. So X-Men wise, there's nothing been announced yet. I think we're about to get a lot. Well, obviously, we saw stuff in Doomsday. I would want to start with. I think it'd be really cool to get a Kitty Pryde movie.
Yeah.
I've wanted a Storm movie from the beginning, but I feel like that's inevitable. I feel like people aren't talking about like other options. And I don't. There was a rumor for a while that the X-Men was going to be like an all-female team, and that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that the leaders of X-Men are usually like one male and one female, and I feel like the males are going to happen. Like we're going to get Cyclops, and I think Storm deservedly, but I feel like Kitty Pryde is one of those characters that would be really cool to see long form.
Why?
Because she's like a leader. She goes through the whole journey of being like an innocent outside of the X-Men. There's an iconic cover that's like, welcome to the X-Men, Kitty Pryde. Hope you survive the experience. That's since been replicated like every time there's a major new team member. So she kind of represents the gateway between being an outsider to the mutants and being welcomed into the family and then becoming a leader. She's kind of the whole transition from a world that hates and fears them into leader. And she also gets like really messed up by different moments, like her training with Wolverine. At one point, the Colossus stuff goes awry, and she's actually like trapped out in space. And she eventually like takes on a leadership role really reluctantly because of what she survived. And I feel like we need an eye line that is someone that's already training with Xavier, but also someone that's like second wave that we could. So I see her as like a second wave importance.
But you think other X-Men characters should be in her movie? Because you're naming off interesting moments in her journey.
Oh, yeah. I don't think a solo by like herself. I think like a Kitty Pryde centric X-Men team, or like
that's what you
her
mean.
journey.
Okay, because I was like, do I really want to watch a Kitty
No,
Pryde movie?
Kitty Pryde X-Men, like if there's a team, like right now she's leading a team called the Exceptional X-Men, and like that as a movie. So it's not like Kitty Pryde walking to the park.
I mean,
but
just make
like,
her the lead.
Yeah.
That's what you mean.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think if I was going to do something like, because I think that's an interesting character that I don't think we've seen her done well. Everyone knows if you watch this show, I want a Storm movie more than any other X-Men movie. But I think Kitty Pryde is someone that people wouldn't have thought of.
That's a good answer, man. Good answers. Good answers all around.